Hey everyone, welcome to this video aiming to help you get an A star in sociology. This video tutorial is how to include a high level evaluation to access the top band, and I've been thinking about this quite a lot and what do students do to get in the top band, do consistently, and what sets them apart from students that are in the second band. And I've used some students as inspiration for this video, and I wanted to explore how they make the evaluation top tier. This was the question that they were given. It's a 30 mark from paper 3, question 4, and it's asking you to apply material from the item and your knowledge. Evaluate the contributions of labelling theory to our understanding of crime and deviance. It's giving you an item and that's there to give you clues to hook your knowledge on and also to develop. Looking at the mark scheme, these students will have sound conceptually detailed knowledge of a range of labelling theories and they will apply the material successfully. They'll basically answer the question set, but what I'm really interested in is the evaluation that's explicit and relevant, and they develop it located within a discussion, within a debate between perspectives. And what I want to do is look at how do they do this without just bolting on an opposing view. How do they develop their answer? So we start with our first paragraph and we're going to talk about Becker, of course. Of course we're going to talk about Becker because he came up with the idea of labelling and the label which created a group of outsiders, and these are the people that the label is successfully applied. And he also explored the role of power within this relationship and how the moral entrepreneurs are using this label in order to widen their power. And he used the example of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics and how they criminalised marijuana use to expand their power over powerless groups. Now, this student starts to evaluate this by using functionalist, and they start with suggesting that crime and deviance actually performs a positive function, bringing in social cohesion. Now, if the student had stopped there, it would appear a little bit bolt-on. It's like, well, what's the relevance of that? Instead, they continue by suggesting that rather than reproducing the power of the moral entrepreneurs, they actually believe that labels are not made by a dominant group or moral entrepreneurs to exclude or control, but actually they are there to bring people into a shared culture. It reminds them of wider norms and values of wider society. So that's my first example that I took for one of my students. So the second paragraph could be from Cicourel. So Cicourel talks about how police officers in his research used stereotypes, or what he called typifications, to arrest typical deviants based on these assumptions. And largely these were working class. It tended to be street crime. So how might we evaluate this? So another student brought in Marxist theories, and they would argue that instead of focusing on the stereotypes or the typifications that police officers used when arresting the working class, instead we should be focusing on the wider structural inequality that gave the power to the police in the first place. And this student continues with this, that Marxists argue that this explanation focuses on the middle range officials that apply the label rather than the capitalist class that makes the rule in the first place. So a little bit of a, I suppose, downfall of labelling theory. It ignores the wider structural inequalities that exist within society. And the final example that I'm going to use is from Cohen. So this is Stan Cohen in his research into the mods and rockers, and he showed how a moral panic was created around these groups where there was minor violence, a little bit of vandalism going on, and they were creating into a folked devil by the media, and as a result this created a deviancy amplification spiral. So the student starts to evaluate it by suggesting that postmodernists would argue that society is more diverse, fragmented, and actually there isn't a single response to a moral panic anymore. Are we desensitised, for example? They would argue that we live in a media-saturated global village. There's multiple sources and ways of accessing the news now. And in today's society, in our postmodern world, do we view the media critically? And do we access multiple media streams of news before applying a view? So we're not taking that dominant media at face value. So as a result, there's not just one response to a supposed moral panic. And this student did reference Thornton. And if you want to know more about Thornton's, you could Google Sarah Thornton's club culture research from the 1990s club scenes, because raves at that time were seen as deviant. And this was a more recent moral panic in comparison to Cohen's research of the mods and rockers, which, even though it's classic, was quite a few years ago. So as you go through your answer, you want to make sure that you have got a reasoned conclusion at the end. And what would that conclusion include? Well, you would summarise, well, what positive contributions has your interactionist and your labelling theories given us? Well, they've told us about how the power of the label that we're given, the long-term effects it has, how it might create a master status, how it might create a deviant career, or the role of the media, for example. And you can also summarise what is it actually failing to tell you through the evaluation points that you will have explored as you have gone through your answer. So this is where the other theories might become more adequate as an explanation. So, for example, you could have explored the structure of society that do influence our behaviour, so our functionalist and Marxist, or how society has changed. So explanations may not be adequate anymore that we're in a postmodern world. In summary, ensure that you are evaluating the usefulness of each explanation as you go along. Start to bring in other theories to evaluate. It does say it in that top band of the Marx scheme to create that debate. Now, avoid bolting on an opposing view. Instead, make a reference back to the point made in your evaluation. That bolt-on evaluation is often seen as juxtaposition, and I do have a video on that if you want to check it out. And end your answer with a reasoned conclusion. Summarise the main ideas and make a judgment at the end. Massive thank you for watching. If you have found value in this video, click that like button, please subscribe, and also if you've got any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.